Welcome to the FLF podcast by J3VC. Today I'm with another developer, Peter Zotti. Thank you very much for coming with us today, Peter.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me.
Okay, wonderful. We'll get right into some questions, Peter. How about we start with a little bit of your background? What inspired you to get into property development in the first place?
As a teenager, I wanted to be a millionaire, and I thought my dad was an entrepreneur throughout his life, started and sold 3 or 4 businesses. So I thought being an entrepreneur was the way to wealth. So at 24 years of age, I opened a clothing shop in a small country town called Narandra and was scared to death selling my first item of clothing to somebody, and we started moving on. So I had 20 odd years of being in a clothing retail business and then moved on to TV advertising. So I've been an entrepreneur basically my whole adult life in the search of making money, and property development has shown itself to be the actual vehicle that I'm very keen to stick with and believe it's going to get the results we're looking for.
So after doing everything you've gone through in regards to your entrepreneurial journey, so you're still now believing that property development is the way forward?
Absolutely. The reason for that is everyone's going to need shelter. And in relation to the finances, when you get it right, there's a significant amount of money to be made. And there's education and there's skill, ability, and a range of other skills required to get you through that journey. I wouldn't say that it's easy, but it's certainly very worthwhile going down that track, which is we're 100% committed to.
Okay. And if you had your time again going through the journey, because I think about this myself sometimes, would you rather find a very respectable and great developer who's been doing it for a period of time and knows what they're doing and invest in their projects? Or you like to go to the path that you've taken already and learn it and to be able to do it for yourself?
Mentor first up, mate. If I was in my early 20s and had somebody who knew what they were doing, I think generally speaking, I'm fairly fast on the uptake when I know what to do. What I found in the past, taking on new ventures or doing things that I don't know anything about without a mentor or a guide or a process, then tend to get stuck and procrastinate and sit there, and very difficult to move forward if you actually don't know what to do.
Okay, so you wouldn't even consider the option of chipping into money with another developer. You wholeheartedly would like to learn it for yourself.
Well, see, what would happen is the person, I would see how they're making money. I would see how they brought together the finances. I would attempt to have a small part of one of their deals initially and just work my way into the arena. But certainly being in the grandstand to learn initially is probably smarter than just jumping in, because whilst there's a lot of money to be made, there's a lot of money to be lost for people who don't know what they're doing either.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Peter. I think that there's pros and cons of being the man in the arena, and I just think there's more pros.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I wouldn't go there. I'm just saying, so in relation to golf, do I just go out in the practice fairway with 100 balls and try to work this stuff out? And plenty of people try that. My approach, and I've played quite a bit of golf, is anyone wanting to learn to play golf, go and get a golf lesson to start with. Tell them you know nothing about it. So then all of a sudden your fundamentals, your grip, your stance, how you're going about it, is all aligned to getting you a great result of hitting a decent golf ball. Now, you won't hit brilliant golf balls initially, but if you've got the fundamentals down and then apply yourself, then you've got a lot of hope, as opposed to go and hit 100 balls and get something to work and then go and see the pro and he's got to unfix all your problems and then put you on the right track. It just seems to me to be counterproductive.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So go directly to a source of knowledge and learn the correct way first. Don't learn a way that you think works, because it probably doesn't if you're a beginner.
Yeah, and the other thing, Jeremy, is when you're not sure of something, you can be lacking in confidence So my recommendation is that if you find somebody that has got fruit on the tree, go up to them, ask them, and just say, listen, I'd love to get into this. I don't know very little about it. And would you consider helping me or giving me some sort of advice? I'd really appreciate it. I think that would be a smart way to go about it, as opposed to lurking in the background on your computer, going onto YouTube, listening to the Facebook answers that people give on the property development sites. I read a range of those, and there's a significant amount of advice on there that I wouldn't take, and there are also some that I would. But unless you know the difference, how do you know what to go forward with and what to flush? So there again, education and or mentor is got to be key.
Yeah, I agree. The idea that someone believes they're going to be saving money by skimping out on learning or even paying for a mentor. I've done it more than once for mentorships. I think it's a misnomer to think you'll be saving money. In the long run, it'll cost you more.
Exactly. And what I find is the mentors that are presenting here, I mean, if you look in the background and do reviews or whatever, and if you've got people that you find have got credibility and integrity, then why would you not want to pay them? If they're presenting it, it's like free advice generally will only get you a certain point. But what I also notice is for not that much money, but committing some money, then you actually get the real and specific advice, and then you get the help from people because they realize it's a two-way street. If you're going to pay money to get advice from relevant people, then that's a fair transaction, isn't it? It's like, like if you were an employee and went to work and the boss said, listen, I really appreciate how great your work is, but I'm going to make a lot more profit if I don't pay you. You obviously, that relationship just crashes and it would never happen. So why would you not want to pay people that have got the knowledge, the education, the experience to get you where you want to go? It's a way to fast track where you want to go. Like last time I looked, life is kind of finite. So I think this day and age, everybody wants to get where they want to go as fast as possible. And a lot of times it's unrealistic about how fast they want to get to places. But then to not pay for a mentor or get educated is even more unrealistic, in my opinion. So the converse to that is if you want to accelerate your journey, get to the money, get to the life that you're looking for, then work very hard at working out who you want to listen to and commit some finances to that.
Yeah, I agree. And in regards to your comment on speed, I think that's becoming ever more important. I've been in business for a few years now, a little while, and even for example, 15 years ago, the speed wasn't as important. Like speed of executing things, moving forward, I think is becoming more and more important in the ever-changing world we're living in.
Absolutely. And when you start getting into the property journey and then you've got the ability to assess deals, if it's a great deal, more often than not, you're not the only one hunting that deal down. So one, you need to have a background and knowledge. Have you got your feasibility? Have you got who's your team? So I guess we need like a town planner to know the DCP. We need a civil engineer to know the stormwater works, and you also need to know the yield. So you want your either architect or designer to be able to do that. So there's a range of people you need in your corner, but then you also need a feasibility shortcut to know what to spend your time with. So in the first instance, doing a 5-minute feasibility and going, this looks good, then having very good consultants around you support or actually tell you why something's not going to work, and both of those are equally as valuable, then you know when to pull the trigger or not. And you need to be organised and set up to be able to put your foot on a great deal. You just got to have the background education and the people around you to know you're not putting your foot on a snake, because that's a completely different situation that you really don't want to get into.
Yes, I agree. And in the area that I'm operating in at the moment, if a good deal does hit the market, someone's got it under contract in a week. So if you want to find one for yourself to be like to actually be really competitive in the area that I'm operating in at the moment, you'd have to be able to sign a contract the day after you see something, basically, or you're not getting anything.
Well, so that's one side of it. And then when your education isn't, or experience isn't necessarily there, and or your confidence, the other scenario would be that would be a deal that's on market. So real estate agents are promoting it and everybody can see it. The other scenario with that is learning how to come up with off-market deals. So maybe real estate agents at times say there's somebody looking to sell, but they don't want to promote it online for whatever reason. Or if you happen to know somebody or send letters, there's a range of strategies, as you know, that can get an off-market deal, which then buys you time to get your consultants to have a look at it all, work out in relation to finances what needs to happen. And it does buy you some more time, but there again, it requires another layer of education and skill and execution to be able to find off-market deals as well as on-market deals.
Yeah. I think you definitely need both. You need to be able to do both, if you want to really sort of guarantee your future as a property developer, because the idea is that you know what you know, and let's say you've done everything right and you get a mentor and you get educated, the profit you can make is only ever going to be as good as the deals you can find. So that's the first step. And then you need a whiz-bang team to be able to actually extract the value out of the deal after that.
Yes, I agree with you. And it's interesting because the people in the industry talk about mindset. Some people not in the industry yet get excited about the proposition of doing property development. And this may be a slight tangent, but Tony Robbins, I've been to a range of his seminars, and he talks about whenever there's anything new, there's like 4 phases to something. So the first phase is getting excited about property development. I saw this person, they made 300,000 or 600,000. Then you imagine it's like, oh, I'm getting paid 70, 80,000 on my job. That's 3 or 4 years pay in 1 year. So in your imagination and your mind, you're looking at the end result, which is very exciting. So the next step is you start to either look at the paper or you call a real estate agent or you go, wow, they want 70, 100,000 for this. Is that a good deal or not? And you, without education or whatever, it becomes very evident that there's a big gap between the imagination of completing that property development and what you actually don't know and what you do have to go through. So that's disillusionment. So you go from being super excited to, geez, I don't know what to do. Probably a good example would be a guitar. You watch someone play and sing, you think, oh, how good would that be sitting around with your friends or even playing in a pub or whatever. And I've actually been through that. You get a guitar and it was a steel string guitar and I couldn't get the sound. I kept putting, finger on two of the strings and it was just making a thud sound. Then I got bruised fingers. So that's disillusionment. And so when you don't know what you're doing with property development, you get disillusioned. So now you got a choice. If you're like me with guitar, you're no longer a guitarist and you're off looking for the next easy thing to do, or you knuckle down and you find someone that can help you and you commit and then you start working your way through that. So there are times when you're learning and you're doing stuff, you go, I know how to talk to a town planner, or I know what I'm starting to ask for, and you feel a bit better about yourself. But there are other times you think, I don't know if I'll ever get this. So there are times when it's like, yes, I'm going to do this, and other times like, I don't know if I can. You stick with that to the fourth phase when you basically got unconscious competence, when you know what you're doing and it just becomes a seamless operation. You know what to say yes and no to when you're talking to agents and they tell you something. You can have an in-depth conversation and know whether it's logic or it's not. Anyway, you're away. So for the new people listening, it's like allow your imagination to see the possibilities, to then work on the reality that you don't know a lot of stuff and that you do need to work through it, and you just stay present so you don't make up stories about I can't do this or I'm not that or I haven't got the money, or because your mind will start making excuses if you're preparing to run. But if you run, what are you going to do then? Look for some other way of making money, or like the next, maybe go and buy some Bitcoin, and people have done that. Congratulations to them. It's just, I couldn't see the value in that. I can see the value of a house always being valuable. I'm not sure where Bitcoin fits in, but that's my lack of education probably, and I have no intention of investing time and energy into that. But if you're going to need to commit to something, somewhere, somehow, and actually get good at it, would be a long-winded way of what I just said.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think for all the new listeners out there, there's a very dangerous loop that some people get stuck in. They start a new venture, they go through the excitement, they go through the disillusionment, and then they give up. They hit some challenges and some rough spots, and they give up, and they find something else to do. And a lot of people starting a business thinks that's the way. And they think that they have not found the right business yet, but in reality, there isn't really a right business. Every business is competitive, and that cycle is going to be the same for any business that they choose to go into.
Absolutely. So just on a morning walk, I was listening to a guy called J.T. Fox, international guy who talks about how to develop business. And he goes, to be an entrepreneur, you're basically being a problem solver. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, problems are going to be part of your life. Being educated minimizes the challenges that you have, but there's always going to be problems. And then how you face those problems, it's like, so what's your attitude towards them? Are you basically upset that there's a problem, or are you going to just go, okay, we've got to work through this. What do I need to do? You stay present. What do I need to do? Who can help me? And then you start working through that. Now, being educated and with more experience, what we're trying to do is minimize risk, which is basically minimizing problems. So when you know what you're doing, when you've got good feasibility, when you've been taught, when you've got outstanding consultants around you, and then you just take step by step. And then when the pressure comes on with some problems, staying present, so not letting your mind run away with you and get negative or depressed or worry. Worry doesn't solve anything. It's establishing what can you do, how do you go about it, and then you work through that. And after you've worked through some issues and challenges, and you start to get some confidence that you can do that, then that's when things really start to blossom and work well for you.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I've realized going through my journey as a business owner that the people that are my mentors today and the people that are my mentors, they're just like people like you and me, except in that 4-step process, they've just iterated it a bunch of times. And so they move from nothing to unconscious competence at one sort of level. And then they moved up to another level and they had to do this again. So it's the same type of person as you or me. The only difference is they've just done that a bunch of times and gone through the mental heartache, the headache, the trials and tribulations, and basically just got better and gained the ability to solve bigger and bigger and bigger problems. That's why their rewards have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And also what I found is most of them have gone broke a couple of times doing it.
Yeah, we won't get too excited about talking the going broke part. In relation to what you've just said is, in my own journey, I've realized the nuances. So in our second project, we hoped that we were going to get like a development application through in about 6 months. It took significantly longer than that. So one of the things that I drew from that is you really don't want to be exposed to financing deals that aren't nearly ready to go. So the longer it takes whilst you're financing something, the more impact it impacts you financially. So if you're then able to, say, negotiate, so our recent deal, we negotiated a 12-month settlement. So we're literally ready to go and we don't need to settle for another 6 or 8 weeks. So we haven't paid $1 in holding costs, and really we're only paying the finance for when the build is happening. So you talk about the people that ratchet up and their nuances. I agree with you. And then you work out where to save money, how to make more money, how to leverage, how to work with different people as well. And I think when your competence goes up and then your confidence matches that, that's when then you start looking at the world in a different way. You know, we think the world is coming at us, but really we're just viewing the world out of our eyes. So what skill and ability, what confidence, what competence. You know, I see some people that just want to renovate and flip. You know, they make $10,000 or $15,000, and congratulations to them for doing that. And they're not willing to step out and say, look for a JV partner for $500,000 to $1 million or whatever. Like, that's just beyond the realms of what they can get their head around. And it's all a journey, and it doesn't mean that you ever have to go to that point. It's like, I think it comes down to, why are you in property development? What kind of funds are you looking for? What kind of life are you looking for? And what's going to satisfy that? But also keeping in mind that where you are today, provided you're learning and getting in the arena, you're going to be a different person mentally, emotionally, and psychologically in 12 months' time.
Yes, I agree to that. And I think that's where mindset starts to come in as well. With your example of the flippers, and what I'm about to say is probably going to ruffle some feathers, but I think, let's say, for example, if someone wants to become a property developer, and I ask them, why aren't you developing a 100-story building in Dubai? If they can't answer why they're not doing something at that scale, that shows that they're intellectually lazy at some point, and at no point have they ever considered why they're not doing that. Because if they come to me and say, I don't want to do that for these 5 reasons, that scale or something, then I know they've thought about it and they've had a really good think about where they want to go, and they know what their goals are.
Yeah. Probably a unique way of looking at it. And can I ask you, are you developing in, I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
No, it's fine.
So why aren't you developing in Dubai how many story building was it?
Yeah, 50, 100, doesn't matter. Just for the example is to do some massive development. No, the reason I'm not doing that is I want to get myself to a certain level of finance first, and then I'm going to lock that in. So I'm just going to put myself and my family in a financial position, so if something ever happens to me, they'll be okay. And then I'm going to start doing a lot bigger stuff. So, and I'm not at that stage yet. Yeah, my focus at the moment is to continue doing smaller, lower risk developments right up until my finances and my structuring is set up in a way that my family will be fine for the next couple of generations. And then once that's locked in and I've got the structuring in place to where that can't be touched, then I'm going to start looking into doing bigger stuff.
There you go. So you answered that. So you're allowed to stay in the property development space, mate?
Yeah, it's I actually like that one, because it's, if you have a think about it, it's true. Like, it's you're, let's say, someone who's struggling to do one project, why haven't you started 10? Because there are probably people that are less smart than you who knew less that are doing 10, and it's probably just a mindset and a knowledge thing to bridge the gap. If that's what you want to do, that's what I'd tell anyone listening that wants to step into it. But also, if you've had to think about it, you're running a successful business and you've got some money set aside and you're fully committed to what you're doing and you're making decent money, then seek out someone like Peter and then just go, okay, I've got this money sitting aside. I'm going to get that money working for me while I concentrate on whatever my business is, whatever they own, sports centers, physios. There's a million different examples. Doctors, anyone in the health field's a good one. There's a lot of them with a couple $100,000, $500,000 just lying around in a super fund or something. I think then if that's you, then focus on what you do best and then get your money working for you.
Yeah. Well, very interesting that you say that, because literally you're having conversations. So our project is about to launch in February. Been talking to our finance advisor, and then so what they do is analysing your background, what's your serviceability like, what you've got as far as assets go, then your loan to value ratio. So we're learning a whole range of things from the financier. And so when you're saying, why aren't you building 60-story building in Dubai, actually do have a plan of having 3 to 4 projects rolling at once. So you look at, you want to be able to create leverage, as in, I don't want to linearly just do one project that takes, say, a year and then do another one a year. That's 4 years to get 4 projects complete. So if I've got 4 going, 1 starting, 1 in the middle, 1 nearly at the end, and they're just rolling, then out of one day, I'm making 4 projects are moving at the one time. So the challenge with that, or I guess the strategies that you look at, it's like, so is it like an outside money partner that's required, or is it a joint venture partner that's going to be in the deal and share profit in relation to that? And whilst I have some say in how that works, at the end of the day, it's the financier or a financier that's going to determine how that plays out. I'm not talking about a specific financier, but it's like, at the end of the day, the largest stumbling block of property developers is the ability to finance a deal. So once you know you've got a deal, you've got your foot on it, you've got all the consultants, you've got it all ready to go, unless you've got the finances to execute on that, then there are options or alternatives, and that's like selling a project that's either DA approved or CDC approved, but then you're leaving a big chunk of money on the table, and you're the one that's done the work, found the project, gone through all the challenges, funded it up to that point. So to me, it seems a bit counterproductive to be not continuing on and completing the project, which is ultimately where the big chunk of the profit is at the end of the sale.
Yeah. You've got a lot of knowledge, Pete, and it seems obvious that you know what you're doing in regards to property development. So can you share a bit of where it first started? So what's the story of your first property development, and what did you learn from that experience?
It's funny, we had a coffee with a guy. We lived in Wagga Wagga at the time, and this guy was going to a country town and looking at putting some units on some land that the ex-servicemen's club owned, and he was going to negotiate this deal where he was going to do that. And Eli and I got a bit excited thought, wow, he's going to do that. So rather than that particular town, we looked at a town similar distance away, and there actually happened to be was a 2-acre block at that time, and it was just like farmland, but it was literally 3 streets off the main street. So then it was developers who held it for a long time, but they were retiring. So we got this 2 acres, and it was $100,000 for this 2 acres. So we finished up, had to get it rezoned, but we believed we could get it rezoned because it was so close to the street. So I was taught a few different things, not in property development, but I rang up every one of the councillors and sent them an email saying, I was proposing to put this into council. Do you have any objections to it? Because we're going to get like 8 2,000 square metre blocks and get 8 new families into a town of about 5,000. They all agreed. So then we got that rezoned. So then we spoke to basically a town planner who explained the things that we needed to do. Then we got the civil engineer, and there were one civil engineer to get stormwater onto one of the blocks. It was going to take it like 400 kilometres. That's sarcasm. He was going to take it through the whole length of the property. It would have cost us more to put this stormwater on one block than the profit we would have made out of the whole lot. My clever wife worked out how to resolve that. Anyway, cut a long story short, the bank loaned us the money to get the 8 blocks, and then we needed to continue on to be able to get all the service on there, and the bank wouldn't allow us to proceed without pre-sales. We got 6 out of 8 pre-sales, but then the deposit, back in those days, it was like $90,000 and $100,000 for these blocks. So we asked for a $5,000 deposit, and 10% was the minimum that they told us after we got that. So we couldn't go back to them and say we needed another 2,000 or 3,000. So they declined to proceed. So then we searched left, right, and centre, and then we finally found somebody and used our house as security. Got that over the line. We thought we were going to make about $600,000, which was a lot of money 10, 12 years ago. We finished up making $150 and learning a bucket load. So that was our first foray. We also then in Wagga, Cherie Barber does renovations, what she called renovating for profit. We bought a place in Wagga, did it up. It's actually on our website. We did it up. We did a beautiful job, but then the cost of getting in and out of the thing was stamp duty. It cost us about $15,000 for a learning experience. And then, we proceeded on to doing a 2-into-1 deal, the next one. And now we've got the duplex in our current location and ready to roll. So it's interesting because out of all of those things, mostly out of our comfort zone through most of that and got over the line one way or another eventually. So we got better and better at that, and here we are. So we're still hanging around. So unlike the guitar thing, we haven't turned and run. This is definitely the place where we're settling in, embedding ourselves.
Yeah, that sounds great. And for the projects at the moment, are yourself and Elaine open to investors at the moment, just for anyone listening?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of scenarios. We're definitely doing chunk deals. So we're looking at things like duplexes. So you buy an old house on a block, put a duplex on there, or 3 or 4 townhouses. We've realised that baby boomers are retiring now. So they're retiring in their bucket loads. So they're in their around 65 to 75 age group. So they don't want to go into old people's homes, but they also want to mitigate against future-proofing their houses. So we either look at single story, or if there's not enough room, you put 2 or 3 bedrooms on the top. So the current one that we've got 2 master bedrooms, one on the top floor, one on the bottom floor. There's a lift in it. But you can live completely all on the bottom floor with the townhouses. A demographer, like a guy big in demographics, basically saying the medical profession cannot cope with baby boomers getting to a stage of becoming unwell, becoming older and not looking after themselves. Apparently 84 years of age, here's a few statistics for you, 84 years of age is the median for people living. So out of all the baby boomers now, half of them won't get to 84, half of them will. Of the half that go beyond 84 and up to 100, at least half of those will need full-time care. So in relation to, the place we're currently in, it's got railway line, it's got medical, near it. We've actually we look for products that are close to the street so people can either walk to the street, so if they no longer can use their car, or they get those little wheelie doobies, and so they can be self-sufficient for a long time, because a lot of people don't want to, if you go to full retirement homes at the moment, people with wheelie walkers are really at the very end of their life. It's not an appealing thing for 65, 70, 75-year-olds to go into that environment. We thought through a whole range of those things. The other scenario is people coming out of Sydney, bought the house for 250,000, sold for 3.5 million. So therefore, they're able to pay a premium for a home that's going to satisfy their needs, moving into old age.
Yeah, interesting. Have you based that strategy off returns on investment, or did you focus that more on there's a hole in the market and these would be easier to sell than a traditional townhouse style development?
No, so that's another great question. So for people starting out, you try to work out where you can call it a patch or a location or a suburb. In order to be able to build something and make some money, for a start, you need to be able to have a sell price called GRV, gross realization value. That's got to be fairly significant, because the build price for a townhouse, it can vary based on the specs that you put into the property, but generally speaking, it's $600,000 to $800,000. Well, I guess that number's not relevant unless what you're talking about. So to build something, the timber and the builder and the prices and the plumber, it's all going to come up to a very similar price, whether you're doing that in a small country town or in a city. So city, you're paying an exorbitant amount for the land. So there's going to be a place where you can buy the land either cheap enough or chop it up into small enough groups that you can make some money. So that's the first step. But you obviously want to, so you need to be able to build it for a price. You need to be able to sell it for a strong price. And there needs to be a gap called a profit in the middle. So that's the fine line that we're walking. I see so many people go, look, this is a great spot and it's got a view and it's got this and it's got that. But so if it sells for like 1.2 million, it's going to cost you 700, 800,000 to build it. If your land's cost you 300 or 400, you're already south by all the consultants. It's like, so there's literally zero profit in that. So the game has to be profit. Then you have to be in a place where it can sell for high enough to be able to cover your build price, your land price, or your consultants and give you a profit. So it's little wonder that not every man and their dog don't do property development, because finding that gap called profit and then knowing that you've got going to have a product at the end of the build that is very saleable, that's interesting. But we've got quite a lot of insights, and talking to people like yourself and being in the industry, you talk to different people and it does get clearer. So when you realize that you've got to find something with gaps, you either got to find a block of land that you can divide up. So if you paid $1 million for a block of land and you can divide it up into 4, all of a sudden that land is 250,000. So that's probably a good start. Having said that, you want to make sure that the DCP allows for what you want to do, that the civil engineer's got the stormwater and sewage covered, and that there's no easements and there's no trees and I should stop there probably.
You're going into the when beginners are going to get to the disillusionment part.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, look at this land. I've just seen the neighbour's house. The neighbour's one was subdivided. This one must be able to be subdividable. No.
Well, give all the new people hope. And it's not that long ago, Elaine and I lived in Canberra. We were walking to the coffee shop and I'd literally look over the back of this house and I'd see, wow, there's enough room there for a house and there's a cul-de-sac behind this place. We might be able to do something on that. It's like, so I'm looking over a back fence at a block that could fit a house and haven't really factored in 15 or 20 other things that might influence that. So there you go. We're all going to start somewhere. We're all going to start somewhere.
That's why the mentor part is so important.
Yes.
It's because it's not even necessarily you'll make more money. What they will definitely do for you, if you choose a good one, is stop you from losing money, stop you from standing on landmines that you don't know are there because you don't have the knowledge yet.
Yeah. And also, mate, you can learn a range of things, but then if you've got a question and you've got somebody that can run that past, they can either, if you're not on the right track, it just saves you a heap amount of time and they can realign you. And the benefit of that is you actually learned something as well. So you're either making a profit or you're learning things as you go along. With people to bounce things off, then mentors and there's a range of people like you and I have had some great conversations, and there are other people in our mentoring group that have plenty of conversation. It's just nice to get around and then talk about things, and then you have some challenges that come up and then things that resolve that, or you mitigate problems before they start by doing certain things. It's just a great environment. And plus you're learning and growing, like you're quite a bit younger than me, but I could do with some neural pathways to stop me going into mental decline too soon.
I've heard rumors, this is not medical advice, but people are using mushrooms to create more neural pathways, microdosing. I don't know, my friends have told me about it. I haven't tried it. Apparently it works. Like if you want to change a habit or learn something new, they get like this particular type of mushroom and cut off such a tiny amount that it has no effect on them, and they just eat a little bit every day, and apparently that helps.
Yeah, as opposed to the woman who's going to jail forever that gave mushrooms to her in-laws and they all died.
Oh yeah, no, not that type of mushroom. It's a different type. That one, yeah, that lady's not a good person. Poisoning your family is frowned upon.
It'd be a fast way to get to inheritance, but
Oh, so she thought it was a fast way to jail instead.
exactly. Let's not do that.
So, how do you manage the risk in your projects?
What risk are you talking about?
Risk of standing on landmines and mitigating things going wrong.
It's a little bit like the golf analogy. Actually, it's like you start with the fundamentals. So there is a checklist. There's a range of different things that you look for. Some of them you can do for yourself, and obviously, when you've done some projects, you've paid consultants and you've got access to them. But there's basically there's a checklist. But it all starts with is it potentially got profit that you're looking for to start with? Otherwise, there's no point looking at it. And then you look at the basic fundamentals in your initial due diligence. It's like, so, what has the council got this zone for? And then it's like civil engineer, town planner can look through things. You've got the architect and designer can tell you the yield or what potentially can go on there. You might need to talk to an arborist or flood. It's a word, flood.
The floods at the
So, and see there again, so software. So pretty much all the people that I know that are doing this seriously have software that lets them know that as well. It also can highlight where zoning is. So it's not just you thinking up these things. It's having software to support it and people as well. So this doing property development with no money, I think, is a fallacy, because you are going to have to pay for some software and some education and just proceeding along the line. Sometimes we attempted to do a couple of option deals with landowners early days, and without having massive amount of experience, they agreed to it. Then when it went to two solicitors, the solicitors, being conservative by nature, told the landowners they thought that was risky and not a good idea. So that got harpooned, but we still paid the solicitors about $2,500 each time for that. There again, a learning experience, but it doesn't take nothing and it doesn't cost nothing. But then the rewards are significantly higher than most other things that I've seen. More than willing to go through that process. You mitigate the risk with your software, with your knowledge, with your education, with your mentors and your consultants.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I've had similar experiences with solicitors, and they've killed several deals due to what they perceived as risk. And I find it a little bit rich that the person who knows legal things and, does lawyering is advising someone about property development. Sort of the whole point is that we're going to the lawyer so they can just, make sure the wording on our agreements is in line with the law, so the agreement's right. And all of a sudden they feel like they want to start giving advice on property development. That pisses me off. That's very annoying.
I agree with you. That the skeptical side of me is that solicitors like to make problems and bounce things. Like you're not allowed to talk directly to the solicitors. It's like your solicitor talks to their solicitor. So they come up with issues and challenges to pad out the problem. In some instances, the longer it goes, the more that you pay, and the potential person you're doing business with is paying as well. So I think there's part of that, and also exactly what you're saying there, that people overstep their bounds of expertise to the detriment of everybody except them.
Yes, and this is what annoys me about it, is because they have a financial gain to be made if they find problems, and their financial gain is tiny in comparison to the one if the deal goes ahead. And a lot of these people, not all of them, but some of them are still happy to spear a deal to make another $1,000 or $2,000 when the profit on that deal could have been $500,000 for the parties involved. So then I'd question, who's that person really working for? Are they working for the client or they're working for themselves?
And I'd take a different perspective. I would say prior to going in, I would find an option solicitor specialist, and then I would also pre-frame the owner saying, these are the sorts of things your solicitor are going to say, and guide them or direct them towards a solution or a resolution. So probably the key fundamental of that is everything that goes wrong, I take responsibility for, even these people making these decisions, and I work out how can I mitigate that so that they're not going to do that to the next deal that I'm doing. Otherwise, you just throw your hands in the air and call the solicitors, all the names under the sun, but that doesn't actually help me get another deal happening. Just probably need to find a more educated solicitor in this environment that can mitigate that situation and make it more likely for the deal to go through.
Yeah, I've mitigated that by having a few solicitors that I normally use and weeding out the ones that are all doom and gloom. And the ones I use at the moment, both work ethically, and I'll give the client like the option, which one do you want to work with? It doesn't, and I'll work with the other one. They're both great, and they'll both represent their client to the best of their ability, but they'll also stick to what they know, which is the legal framework, the legal wording, make sure the contracts to the spirit of the agreement that myself and the other party has already come to a verbal agreement of, and that they just stick to that and help us with that part. They don't get involved in the property development per se.
So that's smart. I've just learned something. Rather than have one solicitor and try to talk the other one and educate them, which is probably like teaching a pig to sing. You have two solicitors that are basically on the same page, so then you don't have the resistance. You've mitigated the resistance. So there you go. Glad I came in this podcast, mate. I'm learning stuff.
Yeah, no, that I found that works really well. It's having a third would be better, but I haven't found a third one which I really gel with and can work with. So then basically the idea is a lot of the time is the solicitors come after your interaction with the client. So I'll just send them the two solicitors and say, I recommend both. Bring them both and pick whichever one you want to work with. And whichever one they pick, I just work with the other one. So that way there's no conflict, and I've told the solicitors what I'm doing and they're happy with it.
Smart.
Yeah, just the deconflicting. So if you could develop a dream project without any constraints, what would be your Zot Tower or whatever a dream project for you would be at the moment, something that you'd like working on?
I can tell that you and I are in a different phase of our lives, because a tower doesn't come into my line of thinking. I'm a bit keen on golf and travel and different things like that. So I'd be more than comfortable with having a range of projects that are just rolling. I mean, obviously I'd like something. So here again, we're kind of like working out where my pain resistance or tolerance or belief is. But I would have thought like 6 or 8 townhouse project would be more than enough. I'd rather Little Fisher Sweet is kind of like where I like to look. So I used to go out fishing with my dad up at Bright, and it's like, so we go in these small streams that are only about up to your knee and flat out being 2 or 3 meters wide. So you like fly fish or whatever, and you catch these small trout. You catch like 10 or 15 in a day. Magnificent to eat. Pretty much guaranteed of catching a fish each time you go, as opposed to you could have gone down the dam and then had the fishing line with all the different colours and working out the depth and, having all the gear trying to catch this mammoth trout. I just enjoyed eating the small trout knowing that I was going to get a result. So my situation in this journey is having an ongoing 3 or 4 projects rolling with it. So still time to enjoy family. I've got 2 beautiful grandchildren and another one due in a few weeks. So I would also like to just go and visit Italy and have obviously a nice home and be able to still play golf. So I'd prefer to call myself semi-retired. So in relation to property development and whatever age or journey people are at, we've been taught that basically you're just managing a project and you're managing people. So I'm physically not digging holes. I'm not actively doing anything other than having conversations with consultants, coming up with the money, and just ensuring that the project stays on course and on track and resolving challenges if and when they come up. So a lot of my time, I'm relatively free. So when I talk to a consultant, I ask for a fee proposal and what the timeline is, and then I put that in the diary. And when the timeline comes up, provided I'm happy with their fee, it's like, such and such, you promised me this by this date, where are we up to? So that's one of my big roles, is just ensuring people kind of do what they say and then just having that role. So I can send off 3 or 4 emails, have 2 or 3 phone conversations, and then my day is pretty free.
That sounds great. So it sounds like working through excitement, disillusionment, choice, and then eventually getting to unconscious competence, if you're willing to go through it, can lead to a pretty good life.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, like my dad was an entrepreneur, and like working for someone, like for a short period of time, I was working for Prime Television for a couple of years when we sold a clothing shop, and we moved over to Wagga. It's like, so the first year was not too bad, but Monday mornings, like you got to set an alarm, and you got to get organised, and you got to go in an office, and you got to sit there and listen to somebody tell you what to do. And more often than not, you kind of knew as much or more than they did. You get told when to have lunch, you get told when you're allowed to go home. Then you get to, so that goes like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you're looking forward to Friday. You stagger through Friday, and then you have the weekend, and then it starts Monday. You got 5 days of that. Well, I got to a stage on Friday that I was starting to get scared that if I didn't enjoy Saturday, Sunday's the day before Monday. So mentally, I'd shot the weekend. I'm thinking 2 days of freedom, 5 days of work, to be told what to do and be paid not enough money. It's like, what adult honestly wants to do that? Wants to do it?
Almost all of them,
What?
because they do it.
Oh, no, they do it because they have to. They do it because they're going to pay the car. They do it because they're going to pay the mortgage. They do it because they've got kids. It's like, seriously, we're adults. It's like, if this was caveman days, you and I'd be going down trying to work out where to catch a fish. So we would walk for like 5 or 10 kilometres or whatever down to a billabong. Then we'd use some physical energy by belting something or spearing something, or like, so there'd be a certain amount of energy for a period of time, enough to have food for another day or two. Then we go and sit under a tree and have a conversation, or go down the river. It was hot. That would be our day. We're actually free. Like, all you got to do is eat and have shelter, and then live your life. Like, seriously, unless it's your business, or, I mean, there are some people out there kind of going to love it. And I guess people that are so into security and routine, they're fine. But I'm flat out having 2 meals the same day after day. Like, as in, I just like variety. I don't like planning stuff out that much. It's like, and why should you? Like, we're here for a finite time, and and then you hear different people at the golf club at different ages or whatever. It's like, I'm no longer middle aged. I don't think 128, even if I eat spinach most days, I don't think I'm going to see 128. So, and it won't happen for a range of people, and it won't happen until a period of time, and it's beyond probably 55. Then when you get to 60, it's like, where did that go? And what am I doing? It's like, you got to endure some stress, but bloody stress is being told what to do and being paid not enough money and putting up with all of that. Like, who should tell you where to go, where to sit, what to do, when to have lunch, when to go to the toilet, when you can go home. That's garbage.
Yeah, I agree. But I just think it's better, it's more helpful to people to know that there is a choice, and just to realize that if they're willing to go through those stages that you talk about, iterate it and work through the suck bit, they can break free of it. But it's their choice.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a choice. I'm speaking specifically about me and my approach. I probably could have done a lot better being a teacher and just sitting on my hands. And then you get 6 weeks off at Christmas time just to swan around. But you got to go to a classroom and you got to eat lunch at 11:35. Anyway, I made my point. But this is a way to literally be free. So you make enough money. So we probably haven't spoken about cash flow versus holding property, but you have a big enough war chest that you can please yourself rather than beating to the drum of the financiers. So you either have a collective group. So I'm certainly open to what I'd call a consortium. You've got a range of people with either different skills and or finances, and then just map out and work out. So my idea of fun is going to a coffee shop and having coffee and writing on a napkin a plan or whatever, and then executing that plan while you're having a coffee and some scrambled eggs. Sounds like more of a go than going to an office and being told what to do.
I think one of the most valuable things about your example there of what you like to do for fun is something that people that are still in the grind at the moment don't realize, is when you do have that coffee and sit down with people, you're choosing everyone that you're with. So you have 100% choice of everyone sitting around the table. And then once you remove all of the negative and the negativity from your life, it just changes everything. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And you find people that are in this game and sticking to it, they've got some very strong personal characteristics. So they're going to have integrity, they're going to have persistence, they're going to have a can-do attitude. They're going to look at the world realistically and just take it on for what it is. And obviously want things for themselves and their family and willing to step out of their comfort zone. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand. It's very easy to say, yeah, you got to step out of your comfort zone and grow. Yes, you do. But by design, when you step out of your comfort zone, you're uncomfortable. And who likes to be uncomfortable? You want to step back in and be comfortable. But that's not where you grow. So what this profession does, it forces you to be out there, be uncomfortable. And then after a period of time, what's making you initially uncomfortable, you get more comfortable with, and then you can expand that circle a bit further. And that really is probably the process of life, generally speaking, but certainly in this profession.
Well, Pete, how can people learn more about yourself and Elaine if they want to work with you or get in touch with you?
Over on Facebook, Zot Property Partners, Facebook, I've actually put a whole range of posts and different things. I go for a walk and near the ocean and share a range of different things so people can look at that. We're currently upgrading our website, so you can find out a bit about us there, www.zotpropertypartners.com.au. Or if they want to send me an email, it's just peter@zotpp.com.au. Certainly happy to chat to people generally. In the other scenario, if they're beginning developers and they have got some finance, as you mentioned right at the beginning of the show, certainly happy to chat to people, help them get started as well, and or explain exactly what we're doing through the whole process so they can learn and make money as they go. It's always got to be a good thing, learning and being profitable at the same time.
Yeah, I think anyone thinking about going into property development, and even if they're in some sort of adjacent industry, you don't know what you don't know. And very strong, and something I'd advise heavily is going into something alone. Let's say they're a builder or they're a real estate agent even, and they think, I want to become a property developer. Seriously reconsider if you're thinking about doing it by yourself with what you currently know, because there's a lot that you don't know. So you want some help to get started.
Yeah, well, I have seen some agents say, a builder said you can get 3 on here or 4 on there. It's like whatever. And you look at the DCP or the frontage and you think they're dreaming.
Yes.
So some might know, well, some would know what they're doing, but there are quite a lot that don't. You actually don't know what you don't know. I think is probably a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and to give it some sort of perspective, if anyone's listened to this whole podcast and Pete said a few acronyms, developers love acronyms, or if he said anything that you don't fully understand, you definitely need some help, because what we've mentioned is 2 or 3% of the process. And if you don't know some of these are the bigger ones, the earlier ones, then I definitely recommend getting some help to get started.
And if somebody's stuck with us for an hour, mate, I reckon they deserve a prize.
They do. They can give either of us a ring, and if you've gotten this far, we'll have a chat. How about that?
Well, I think the prize is that if they've come this far, they've shown that they really do want it. And all I want to do is encourage you, recommend you get after it. And the results are well worth going through whatever you need to go through to get there.
I think, yeah, that's great. And we'll, I think, is there anything else you'd like to add, Pete, before we wrap up?
No, mate, I just appreciate you for having me on and really enjoyed the chat.
Fantastic. And also, just before we wrap up, because we do this in one take, I'm going to end the podcast, but just leave this window open, please. Okay. Thank you for joining us on the FLF podcast. I've been today with Peter Zotti. I'm going to leave his contact details at the bottom of the screen on this one. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you on the next one.